I stood frozen, my eyes fixed on the guard's face as he revealed the shocking news. Something was off, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. As I walked through the dimly lit corridors of the St. Louis Medium Security Institution, the smell of disinfectant hung heavy in the air, a mask for the stench of desperation that clung to every cell block. I'd spent 3 years here, locked away for a crime I didn't commit, at least, not that I'd been told. The sound of my feet echoing off the cold concrete walls was a constant reminder of my confinement. Memories flooded my mind like a broken dam as I navigated the maze of corridors. I recalled the faces of fellow inmates, guys I'd grown to trust, guys I'd grown to hate. There was Marcus, the quiet kid who'd become my confidant, and Vinny, the loudmouth who thought he owned the place. I'd seen both of them walk out those gates, leaving me behind, and the pain of being left behind still lingered. I'd been a shell of a man when I arrived, broken by the system and worn down by the endless cycle of despair. But the workhouse had a way of sharpening you, of turning you into a tool for survival. You learned to fight, to navigate the power struggles, to plot your next move. I'd become a machine, honed to adapt and thrive in this unforgiving environment. The clang of steel doors and the murmur of hushed conversations created a sense of unease that never truly dissipated. A guard approached, his eyes scanning the corridor with a mixture of boredom and disdain. "Hey you," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're the one who thinks he's entitled to some cash, right?" He held up a clipboard, his finger hovering over a name on the list. I felt a spark of curiosity ignite within me, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was talking about. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. But my mind was racing with possibilities. The guard's expression didn't change, but I sensed a hint of amusement in his voice. "Some settlement dude," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You're one of the lucky ones. You got to file a claim and get some money." I felt a rush of excitement mixed with a healthy dose of skepticism. What kind of settlement could I be eligible for, and how much money were we talking about? The guard nodded, his expression unreadable. $4 million, I hear. You got a few days to file, or you're out of luck." I felt a surge of adrenaline course through my veins as I mentally calculated the odds. I'd been locked up for 3 years. If I was eligible, I might actually get a shot at a real life. A life outside these cold, unforgiving walls. But as I looked at the guard, I saw something in his eyes that made my gut twist. He wasn't just a cog in the machine. He was a human being. Tired and worn down by the system he was a part of. I wondered if he knew the truth about the settlement, if he knew what we were up against. The fluorescent lights above seemed to hum in sync with my racing thoughts. "Hey you," he said again, his voice low and urgent. "You need to hurry up. The deadline is soon, and if you don't file, you're out of luck." I nodded, feeling a sense of desperation creeping in. I knew I had to act fast, but I also knew that I couldn't do it alone. I needed help, and I needed it now. I remembered Marcus, the quiet kid who'd become my friend. He'd always been the smart one, the one who'd figured out the system and found ways to game it. I wondered if he was still out there, if he knew about the settlement. The thought of Marcus sparked a glimmer of hope within me, and I clung to it like a lifeline. I grabbed a pen and paper from the guard's clipboard and jotted down the website address he'd scribbled for me. "I'll file the claim," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but my hand was shaking with anticipation. "But I need to talk to someone who can help me make sense of this." The guard's expression softened ever so slightly, and I sensed a hint of empathy in his voice. "You can talk to me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But be careful, man. The system is rigged. They don't want you to get out." I felt a chill run down my spine as I looked at the guard, really looked at him. He was a human being, tired and worn down by the system he was a part of. And I knew that I had to be careful, because in this world, the line between friend and foe was thin, and the stakes were deadly. I left the guard's station and made my way to the computer lab, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound of keyboards clacking and the hum of computers created a sense of urgency, and I felt like I was running out of time. I had to file that claim, had to get out of this place. But as I sat down in front of the computer, I realized that I wasn't alone. There were others in the lab, guys who'd been locked up with me, guys who'd been fighting the system just as hard as I had. One of them, a skinny kid with a buzz cut, caught my eye. "Hey, you're the one who's been talking to the guard," he said, his voice low and urgent. "What's going on?" I nodded, trying to keep my cool, but my mind was racing with possibilities. "I'm trying to file a claim," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I need your help. I need to know if you guys are in." The kid nodded, his eyes scanning the room, and I sensed a sense of solidarity in his voice. "I'm in," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And so are most of us. We've been waiting for this opportunity for years." I felt a rush of hope ignite within me as I realized that I wasn't alone. We were a team, a group of guys who'd been locked up and forgotten. And we were going to fight back. We're going to take on the system and demand justice. As we worked on the claim, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. We were playing with fire, taking on the system and risking everything. But I also knew that we had to try, had to fight for our freedom and for the truth. The clock on the wall seemed to be ticking away, reminding me of the deadline that loomed over us. As I filed the claim, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. We'd done it, we'd taken the first step towards justice. But as I looked around the room, I knew that we weren't out of the woods yet. The system was still out there, waiting to pounce. The shadows cast by the fluorescent lights seemed to grow longer, like skeletal fingers reaching out to snatch our hopes away. I took a deep breath and stood up, feeling a sense of determination wash over me. I was going to fight, was going to take on the system and demand justice. And I wasn't going to back down, no matter what. The sound of my own heartbeat was like a drumbeat in my chest, urging me forward. As I walked out of the lab, I felt a sense of hope ignite within me. We were going to make it. We're going to take on the system and win. And I knew that I wasn't alone, knew that I had a team behind me, guys who'd been locked up and forgotten. The corridor seemed to stretch out before me like a gauntlet, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. We were going to fight, we're going to take on the system and demand justice. And we were going to win. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, and I knew that I was ready to face whatever came next. The darkness of the corridor seemed to recede, replaced by a sense of purpose and determination. As I walked, the sound of my footsteps echoed off the walls, a reminder that I was still alive, still fighting. And I knew that as long as I had breath in my body, I would never give up. The system might be rigged, but I had something that they didn't: hope. And with hope, I knew that I could overcome anything. The days that followed were a blur of activity as we worked tirelessly to gather evidence and build our case. The settlement claim was just the beginning, and I knew that the real fight was only just starting. But I was ready to take on the system and demand justice. The memory of the guard's words echoed in my mind. The system is rigged. They don't want you to get out. But I was determined to prove him wrong. I spent hours poring over documents, talking to other inmates, and gathering information. The more I learned, the more I realized that the system was indeed rigged, but I also knew that we had a chance to change that. The settlement claim was just the beginning, and I was determined to see it through to the end. As the deadline for the claim approached, I felt a sense of tension building inside me. What if we didn't make it? What if the system found a way to stop us? The thought sent a chill down my spine, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. We were going to make it, we're going to file the claim and take the first step towards justice. And then, just as we were about to submit the claim, disaster struck. The computer lab was shut down, and we were told that we couldn't access the internet. The system was trying to stop us, to prevent us from filing the claim. But I was not going to let that happen. I rallied the other inmates, and together we found a way to bypass the system and submit the claim. As we waited for the response, I felt a sense of anxiety building inside me. What if we didn't get the settlement? What if the